Recently, I found myself in an internet rabbit hole searching for unique date ideas. Instead, I stumbled across some of the worst first date stories out there. These stories left me wondering whether certain people are allergic to common decency. I went out with a guy for coffee. Wasn't the best date ever, but not awful, so I agreed to a second date. There were lots of red flags, so I nicely told him it wasn't going to work out. He asked when he could see me again. I said that I didn't want to go out again. He asked me to go to a movie with him as friends. He said he was going to come over and help me put up my garden fence. I declined. He kept planning our future together. I got my things and paid the bill. He walked me to my car, gave me a hug that included pinning my arms, lifting me off the ground, and swinging my legs back and forth like the clapper of a bell. He begged me to let him know when I got home okay. I sat in my car for a moment and I knew I needed to vent a bit. My best friend got off work at midnight, so I asked him to meet me for a drink. While I was there, I remembered promising my date that I'd text when I got home. Considered lying, but then texted that I wasn't home, but had decided to meet a friend and was perfectly safe. Thanks for your concern. Didn't think anything about it. The next day, I received a long rant about how rude I was and that if I decided to go somewhere else after the date was over, I should have contacted him and let him know so that he could come too. Dude, who I've already told I won't be going out with you again. You have no say in what I do after our date is over. Yeah, dude went from seemingly concerned and caring to a bit controlling. Sounds like she avoided a red flag big time in this situation, because who knows what her future could have looked like if there weren't any other red flags during these dates and she'd continued seeing this guy. The guy took me to a McDonald's, ate 5 hamburgers, one after another, looked on his phone, asked me if I was horny and wanted to go to his apartment so that I can do you. I politely declined and left. I have never been as disappointed in someone as on that date. Where did you meet this person? I mean, at least he was straightforward, but obviously not in a very appreciative way. I went out with a coworker who asked me to go furniture shopping with him because he wanted a woman's opinion when decorating his new house. He said that for taking the time to go shopping with him, he wanted to buy me dinner. I met him at his place and he drove to the furniture store. He asked for my opinion on different pieces of furniture, and if I liked anything, he would examine it thoroughly and then tell me everything that was wrong with it and why I was wrong to like it. 2 hours later, we left the store without buying so much as a lamp. He stopped by KFC and bought a bucket of chicken. He then drove us back to his house. We ate the KFC at his kitchen counter because he had no tables or chairs, and then he announced it was time for us to go to bed. More accurately, to the mattress on the floor since he had no bed. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. He was insulted and disappointed that we weren't going to end that fantastic evening with coitus. Every time I hear the word coitus, it makes me think of Big Bang Theory. Let me know in the comments if you watched the Big Bang Theory. Also, speaking of Big Bang Theory, why does this person give me Sheldon Cooper vibes? It's one thing to want a second opinion on your home design choices, but it didn't sound like that was a very productive evening. And then it finished with KFC and horny thoughts. Somehow I have a feeling there was no desire for a second date. I actually asked him to dinner after meeting him in an airport. He was tall, handsome, and seemed very nice. We went to dinner in Santa Monica. About a quarter of the way through dinner, he called the waitress over and in a very mean and aggressive way asked what was taking so long. He implied it was her fault. I was very embarrassed as he was being loud too. She looked stunned, and I was stunned. I politely as possible asked him why he did that. He stated he was the customer and she was there to serve him. I placed a $20 bill on the table and told him I was leaving because I would not tolerate that type of behavior towards a server. He could lose my number. I gave her $20 as I left and told the manager it had nothing to do with the server. He did call me again. I reiterated what I said and blocked his number. Nothing like showing your true colors on a first date, like being a complete jerkbag to the people who serve you. Sounds like she dodged a bullet on that one. The date was going so bad, I went to the bathroom and disappeared. He didn't realize for 3 hours. I met this guy while out one night with a guy friend for a local event called First Friday. He asked for my number after chatting to me and my friend a bit. The next day, he called and asked me on a date, all normal. Arranged a time and public place to meet. I showed up early and was one of only 3 women in the place, and one of the women was the bartender. He showed up late, didn't recognize me, even though he had met me in person the night before. And when we sat down to talk, it was like pulling teeth. Then my guy friend shows up because it's a neighborhood pub, and my date recognized him immediately. Suddenly, my date was Chatty Cathy, even introduced me to my friend, though he forgot my name. He also seemed to forget my friend and I knew each other. I suggested the 3 of us play a game of billiards to kill some time and try to give the guy a chance to straighten up and show some personality. My date agreed and went to see about getting a table. He basically got distracted talking to some people already playing pool. I had enough of this crap by this point and left. 3 hours later, he texted asking where I went, apologized for getting distracted, and asked for a second date. And somehow I have a feeling he did not get that second date. What do you think? It was around Christmas time. I had a date in a bar with a guy I had talked to online. The date was going all right until he said I could never be with you in a relationship, but you could be my Christmas holiday girlfriend. Gee, thanks, I guess. I'm good enough to entertain you for a week or two. I feel blessed. I got up and left. Didn't feel like wasting my days off on someone whom I already knew would treat me like garbage. What more can you say about that one? Dude was clearly just looking for a holiday fling, and why am I getting the idea that perhaps he might have already been seeing somebody else and just wanted to have a little fun during the holidays because he couldn't see his person? We agreed to meet up in a local pub for a drink, and at a first glance, he did look very nice. Tall, well dressed, and fairly nice to look at. He was rather posh, actually. We started chatting, and I wanted to know what he was interested in doing in his spare time. He enjoyed driving, and was an extremely good driver, apparently. He pointed out his big, fancy car outside the window. Women shouldn't really drive, he said, settling into his favorite conversation. Perhaps 1 in 50 women are capable of driving like a man. Actually, I think I've been instrumental in getting quite a few of the worst ones off the road. If I'm driving down the road and I see a car being badly driven by a woman, I'll mess with her. Nothing serious, mind you. I've got good judgment enough just to have a little scrape with no serious harm done. It'll be her fault. I just won't take evasive action if she is in the wrong. I'll swing in rather than drive around. That's the kind of thing that'll put them off driving and may make their insurance go up as well, which might put a stop to them. It's best to get them off the road for their own safety as well as everyone else's. It's probably a relief to them. I'm actually doing them a favor. Hang on. Are you leaving? Yeah, and I'm not surprised that she decided to get up and leave. What were you thinking talking to another woman about how bad woman drivers are, putting them all into a bucket, and then talking about how you mess with bad woman drivers on the road? Many years ago, my doctor thought I would be a good fit for his anesthesiologist friend, so I agreed to a blind date. I was a young lawyer. We agreed to meet at an outdoor spot near a marina, so I dressed appropriately for a date. I looked nice. The gentleman arrived wearing a trench coat. It was summer. I thought, okay, that's a little odd. The trench coat never came off. He barely spoke to me. I had to carry the whole conversation, if you can call it that. I left as soon as I could reasonably do so without making a scene. I very politely told my doctor friend to not match anyone else with this particular friend. Creepy. Am I the only one wondering what was under the trench coat? I was dating a guy in 2013. One day, we went to IKEA to have our lunch at the cafe. As usual, the cafe was packed with people. It made more sense for me to find us a table while he went to get the food. The line moves in such a way that you got your food, paid for it, and then moved into the self-service station where you would pick up utensils, napkins, and drinks. I found us a table after searching for over 15 minutes, and he came back with a tray full of food. I could see the sour look on his face and assumed he was just cranky from the long queue. I noticed there were no utensils and naturally asked, "Oh, no utensils?" I thought perhaps the cafe had run out of utensils. He immediately retorted, "Yes, because I want you to go get them." He emphasized the word you with a fake smile plastered on his face. Now get this. This guy had to walk past the utensils station on the way to our table. Picking up the utensils would not cost him anything nor require any extra effort. But he refused to do it simply because he couldn't stand the idea that I could sit on my bum and relax, while in his mind he did everything. I had to intentionally walk to the utensil station to grab a set of utensils. Yes, one set. I placed the one set of utensils on the table, told him to enjoy his lunch, and I walked off. I had lost my appetite. What a weird attitude that guy has. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of the normal procedure for couples to go into a restaurant and one person try to find a table if it's like extremely busy while the other person orders the food for them, and then they meet at the table and save some time and headache trying to find a table. But this guy seemed weirdly set on the idea that she should have had some part in getting the food from point A to point B, even though everything fit on one tray. I wonder how long they were dating for. My guess is probably not very long if he started acting like this early on. We met through mutual friends. He seemed cool. I was a single parent at the time, and he was a single parent as well, so he understood the struggle of dating while being a single parent. Or so I thought. We were supposed to meet for dinner. He got held up at work, so he was about 30 minutes late. No big deal. We meet at a shopping center with several restaurants, but he decides he wants to take me to a different area of town to his favorite place. I followed him to a local bar. I'm still trying to be upbeat and positive. Maybe this place also has awesome food, and that's why he brought me here. He already knew that I didn't drink. The bar has no grill. I mentioned being hungry, and he says, "Oh, I thought you ate while you were waiting on me." I brushed it off as a misunderstanding. He then has a conversation with the bartender about me while I'm sitting next to him at the bar. He says, "She's hot for a mom, right?" Making things super awkward for myself and the bartender. The "for a mom" thing is where I finally decided he was just a jerk. He then proceeds to try and have a conversation with me over the loud music playing, so it's the awkward exchange of him yelling and me saying, "What?" So he gets 2 inches from me and is trying to whisper in my ear in between shots of Jaeger. He suggests to me that I should leave my daughter with the babysitter overnight so that I can go back to his house and we could have a little play date of our own. So now he's not just a jerk, he's a creepy jerk. I said it was an awesome idea and I was going to go outside and call the babysitter. I got in my car and left. Never spoke to him again. That's a pretty bold move for a first date. I don't know why you would take someone to a noisy bar for a first date, because obviously that is a time for you two to get to know each other. And he knew that she didn't drink, so that obviously made a bar a bad place to go as well. If this place didn't serve food, then obviously that was a point of contention as well, even though she wrote it off as a misunderstanding. But I do believe that she most definitely dodged a bullet with this guy because it seems like his intentions were just to get that one thing. We had turned up to a pizza restaurant. We ordered and sat down. Within the first 5 minutes, my ex girlfriend walks in. She sits down beside me and looks at the girl opposite me and looked her square in the eyes and said, "You can date him, but no, I love him." The girl got up, didn't say a word to either of us, and left. The moment when you think you dodged a bullet with a crazy girl and got away from it just to have her come in and spoil your first date with a new girl. This was decades ago. A friend set me up to meet a woman he knew. I went to the restaurant. I waited and waited for them to show up. Eventually, I left. I asked him what happened. She apparently came in, looked at me, decided I was not her type, and left. No courtesy to even greet me so I could also leave. Sounds like this woman is good at being honest, just not with anybody but herself. And it would have been nice, in one way, shape, or form, for her to at least approach this person that she was supposed to be meeting up with and at least come up with some sort of excuse as to why they would not proceed with the date. I understand it's awkward, but to not have any courtesy whatsoever and have them waiting and waiting. After reading all these stories, I'm actually inspired to share one of my own. So, this isn't by any means the worst date ever, but I remember meeting a girl online and we had agreed to meet up and hang out, which then turned to us taking a drive together. So, I rode in her car for the first time ever meeting her, and it was just the most awkward thing ever riding in a car, driving in a pointless direction, and it was just quiet and awkward the entire time. So we drove back to where we had met up and then just never spoke again. To this day, I still don't know why I agreed to get into basically a stranger's car, but Definitely a good learning experience. As far as these stories, all of them were pretty freaking crazy. I think the one that was craziest to me was the one where dude was in a pizza restaurant on a first date with a girl after presumably recently breaking up with his ex-girlfriend, and then ex-girlfriend crashes the date, makes the whole thing awkward and scares her away. That one was the craziest for me. Let me know which one of these you thought was the craziest in the comments. And if you have a crazy date story, you know I want to hear that as well.